Hello. I wanted to put together a short follow up from our training on Tuesday. We covered so much ground in 4 hours, and I'm just really blessed to be a part of that experience. You guys were great to work with. So, a lot of things, I want to focus it back down to a couple things that I felt were priorities and remind you just to choose something that you want to move forward with. I had a couple people tell me that they wanted to do everything, but if you focus on everything, you can't focus on anything. So pick one thing that really spoke to you and then just persist. So the whole idea of the program Count on Me came initially from that quote, 80% of success is showing up. And interpreted many different ways. One of the ways I interpreted it was not about showing up, but it's like everybody shows up. Some people show up as abrasive, some people show up as grumpy, some people show up as happy, some people show up as kind, compassionate. And so what it strikes me as is when you show up, it's impossible for you to not influence people around you. This quote from Ralph Waldo that I've used for years: who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. So 93% of communication is nonverbal. Before you open your mouth, people are picking up messages from you, from your body language, from the expression of your face, your eyes, your enthusiasm, your voice tone, what have you. So counting on me and taking time to reflect. Reflection means getting out of automatic pilot, essentially. And one of those comments that came up during the training was the difference between reacting, which is an automatic behavior, or responding. And responding is like a pause and basically asking yourself, who do I choose to be in relationship to this? So that is a much more healthy and balanced and fulfilling life. So the notion of taking time to reflect, if we don't take time to reflect and we do get into automatic pilot, then the thing it's going to take to get our attention is a crisis, which is the number one motivator for change in our country. And, that, that concerns me because crisis basically means, okay, damn it, it's more uncomfortable to change, to stay the same than it is to change, so I'm going to drag my feet and change. But we have this possibility around us all the time. And the way to tap into that is being able to look at, who am I? How am I showing up? Who am I when I'm at my best? And what parts of my leadership ability are really exceptional? And where would I like to grow? And what impact does my presence have on people around us? And the quote that a couple people ask about from Milton Erickson, allowing yourself to see what you don't allow yourself to see. And so that's that responding instead of reacting, is like taking time to look in the mirror and go, wait a minute, what can I do differently in my world to make my world and the world around me a better place to be? Or what can I do to live the next highest version of myself that I can imagine right now? And that's not bitching, complaining, whining, focusing on bad news and so forth. It's like, okay, in my planet, in my world, where I get a chance to choose, what are the choices I can make now to live an even richer, more fulfilled, more balanced life? And then when you do that, again, that rubs off on everybody around you. And the thought occurred to me many years ago that your presence is never neutral. It either enriches or diminishes the people around you. And that happens just spontaneously through the presence and who you are and how contagious people are. So one of the tools in this program was the circle of influence, circle of concern. And it's all about focusing, essentially, that I have the ability in the world to watch news, to have conversations about problems and weather and money and finances and war or whatever, all of which is outside of myself that I can't control and have almost no impact upon. But when I put my energy into that world, my ability to influence is restricted. Now, when I focus in my world on my health, my balance, my response, my reaction, how I talk to people, who I choose to be, my influence spreads and it grows. So those include things like attitude, priorities, what you read, what you watch, the people you hang out with. One of the fastest ways to know what focus you have is to listen to what stories you're telling. Because a story is energy. Whatever you put energy into grows. So being really conscientious about my focus, as opposed to being reactive and living in a world where I'm putting my energy into things that diminish me and waste my energy. So one of the things we looked at is choosing. This is an example I gave of an exercise I learned years ago. I do this most days. I don't do it when I first started. It took some practice to feel it. But this is the 5 words. And the 5 words are, if I could begin my day thinking about what are the 5 words that occur to me right now that would describe the ideal experience I'd like to have today. So, peace, ease, flow, joy, playfulness, surprising connections, meaningful connections, quality interactions, learning, doing some things differently, having fun. And I'll add to this list from that comment that Mo Gawdat made in the video where he was interviewed by Simon Sinek. Basically, he's talking about helping to make 1 million people happy. And he said 2 things that struck me, and I'm going to include a link to that it's a longer video, but it's worth the watch. People are striving for happiness, but as children, we were hardwired to be happy. You didn't have to learn that. So that hardwiring is still in us somewhere. So to be happy, what can I remove from my life that's interfering with happiness? That might be one of the 5 words, being more happy and removing what interferes with it. So again, whatever you're focusing on, you're energizing. And in this huge, big, broad world, there's a ton of different things. I had a friend one time complaining about how much money she and her husband had to pay in taxes. And the reason they were having to pay that much money was, you made an awful lot of money last year. So which end of that stick are you looking at? So focus is, in every situation, there's always options and opportunities. And the one you choose that's most positive, most fulfilling, will increase your energy and make you less of a victim. So we talked about Planet Larry. This has occurred to me from conversations with traveling. When I would sit down with young people and have conversations about life and choices and clarity and where are you headed, what are you moving toward? And they're like, well, how do you live like that? And it started out as a joke. This is how it works on Planet Larry. And then I realized I know my priorities, I know my values, I know what I believe in, I know where I choose to put my focus. So in my planet, the world that I orbit, I'm as conscientious and deliberate as possible about putting my attention on the things that enrich and nourish my life. So that's why I popped that up here. So your presence, whether or not you know it, is contagious. And we know about contagions from disease, but you spread from person to person to person. And if you're living externally conditional, you're much more influenced by the people around you, and you're reactive much more than you're being the influencer. So that's part of the reflection, is like, what's the presence you choose to have no matter what? So we talked about the golden circle, and it's a bigger process. So I'm just going to highlight the things we talked about, and then I'm going to put a video on here that Simon helps somebody find their why in 15 minutes. But the why is that core inner purpose that kind of drives your life, and when you feed your why, that's where we find that sense of fulfillment. Most people are very busy with what. And to the extent that I joke about, we've turned ourselves into human doings, and we don't know how to be human beings. So in this process, the thing that I want to just highlight, it's not an intellectual left hemisphere analyzing process. That part of the brain cannot do that. The right hemisphere has a broader perspective. It has more wisdom, perception. It sees patterns, relationships, but more importantly, it feels. So when you're in this process of looking for your why, through examining some of your hows, go into that place of finding moments in your life where you felt sense of fulfillment, purposefulness, loss of time, completely inspired by what you're doing in the moment. And again, it's not a thinking experience. The more people think, the more you screw up the process, because that part of the brain can't find it. So it's a memory, and it's an experience. It's a reflection of something that you did at one point in your life. So you feel your way to that when you felt enlivened, engaged, fulfilled. And there are patterns. So at every phase in your life, whether it's a child with your family or school, college, work, whatever, there are patterns in your life that you find those moments where, hey, this is one of those moments where I felt like if I could live this moment in my life every single day, this would be awesome. And so one of the final things we got to was that comment from Greg McKeown on why companies were less successful the second time around than they were the first time around. And what he found from 15 years or so of research was when people begin a business for the first time, they're crystal clear on the 3 or 4 things that they have to do well for this to succeed. But once they get success, they get a little bit more arrogant or complacent, and now they're focusing on 10 or 12 things, which is much more difficult and complicated to do. So if you don't prioritize your life, someone else is going to do it for you. And we all know that because you have tugs of people pulling at you for things that they want you to do or who they think you should be. So if you're not disciplined in the pursuit of the essential, you'll be undisciplined in the pursuit of more. Every day, the world's going to drag you by the hand, yelling, this is important, you should do this is important. And if you're centered and grounded inside yourself, when you're trying to satisfy everybody else, the person doesn't get satisfied as you. And when you're not feeding yourself, you have less to offer anybody around you. So be present. The interview again, it's when I'll put that clip up. The thoughts that cause negative feelings, people feel bad, are anchored in the past or the future. You're pasting or futuring, but you're doing it now. So you're taking this now moment instead of being present in this now moment. So part of that practice we did was like being present. One of the fastest ways to slow down and quiet your mind is the breathing. And so we did that one breathing exercise, and basically any kind of breathing exercise where you just bring your attention to your breath and you slow down your breathing. You breathe in really slow, you breathe out really fast. The 2 parts of that is just the simple act of focusing on your breathing for a few moments, brings you back to the present moment and quiets your mind. And the other piece with that is when we did that little exercise with our hands, breathing, inhaling, moving your hands up, exhaling, moving your hands down, and feeling the air move between your fingers. I still remember how stunning it was the first time I did that and realized when I'm aware of my body and the senses of my body and the temperature, comfort of the chair, when you're aware of your body, your mind's quiet. So be present, yank your life back, and be clear on what your own priorities are. And essentially, that's a big part of what the whole training was about. Thriving, that's that Arianna Huffington book on Thrive. Would recommend that as opposed to surviving. So how do we build a life that we don't need a vacation from? How do we build a life where the majority of the time we're clear, we're centered, we're grounded, we're feeling a sense of fulfillment, we're involved with meaningful things? This is that quote from Mary Oliver. What is it you plan to do with this one wild and precious life of yours? Now, it's something I didn't talk about, but it's been really important for me. Everybody dies, not everyone will live. So contemplate that in your own way. That struck me, and it's like, well, what does it mean for me to be living? And that doesn't mean going through the motions or keeping busy or being occupied. And the other thing, I didn't do this, but it feels important enough, I want to put it here. Mom got out of rehab and came to my house, and we're sitting around, and Mom and Dad are sitting on the sofa just holding hands. She was 89 when she passed away. I think Dad was 93. I found an article. It's a woman who was a palliative care nurse for 9 or 10 years. And what that means is that she was the last person that people had conversations with before they passed away. And so from all those conversations over the years, she started noticing patterns. And so she wrote an article that became a book. And the patterns were the top 5 regrets of dying, top 5 things that kept coming up in conversation. And so what I did with that is like, okay, we reached the end of our life. And in hindsight, we have these top 5 regrets, but I'm not at the end of my life. I'm at my life right now. And so if I could take those top 5 regrets instead of making them regretful, it's like, well, how do I live my life from this point forward to make those things active, living a more fulfilled life, not working so hard, taking time to express my feelings, staying in touch with friends, letting myself be happier. So I wanted to throw those top 5 regrets in here as a part of this program. So lots of stuff that we covered. I'm really honored to be a part of the process. Really appreciate how you guys dove in and really shared with each other. This is one of my retreat offices. It's camping up in the Rocky Mountains. So thank you so much. God bless. Take care of yourself. Make yours a great life. Ciao.